Relic is a 2022 psychological horror film that stars an intergenerational cast of a mom, a daughter, and a grandma. In the film, we're led to believe initially that grandma is being haunted by some thing in the woods that has found its way into her home and potentially living in the walls. And I kind of want to go over the things that this movie does well, kind of right off the bat. So this movie does tension framing very well. And what I mean by that is there will be shots where the characters are blocking the view of the audience, leaving it suspect to what is behind them. And oftentimes it will be a situation where we're looking at maybe the daughter, and then behind the daughter is an entranceway to the room that she's in. So there's that potential of something could be walking in, something could be walking behind her. Maybe we see the light change behind her or something, but we can't see it, and she kind of moves with this. So the film plays with blocking very well for how it executes its horror. The other thing that the film does, it will utilize wide angle lenses to shrink the size of a person or expand the size of a person within a space. So, for example, it's actually all this stuff happens in the same room to some interesting kind of effect, I suppose. But there's a scene where daughter comes into the room and she looks tiny in the room at first. Like everything's kind of distorted. It's like this kind of like, you know, that effect that they use in film when somebody's like ears get like kind of blown out and it's like, whoa, dude, you can't hear me. And everything's kind of like really like bent, right? Because you have a wide angle lens, things at the edges of the lens bend. That's what happens. And then after she kind of comes back to reality, it's like a more traditional standard lens where everything looks normal and the image isn't bent at the edges. So that's something else that they do. And then the last thing that they do is they play on the architecture of the home to kind of like spook you. So just imagine how there is sometimes like mold, or there are sometimes like leaks, or the house makes noises, or somebody like, there's another movie that actually kind of almost did this better, called Night House or something. It's like Night House, I don't know. And in that movie, there's like a silhouette of a person's face that you see with how the character lines up with how the architecture of the house like looks in this one shot. It's really interesting. And this movie kind of does that, but like to not as a fancy level. So those are the general three ways the film kind of like tries to scare you visually. It doesn't like show you anything that's like truly terrifying, but yeah. So let's go over the plot a little bit. So grandma had some problems, and daughter, who is the mom, and then granddaughter, who is the daughter of mom, come to go live with grandma for a bit. But mom is clearly like kind of wanting to just move past this, and she wants to put grandma in a home. And to mom's credit, she is completely justified in this because grandma clearly has dementia. And in the film, it's not really portrayed as mom or granddaughter knowing or understanding dementia like at all. And it's played in the film up until the end as if mom or grandma has like a psychological phenomenon and or is being assaulted by some strange weird thing from ancestral families, because throughout the film, mom, granddaughter, they're having these like dreams of a cabin, and in the cabin they walk in, sometimes they don't walk in, but there's like a weird mirror window thing, or whatever. It's like a stained glass window thing. And this is like, I guess, symbolic of decay, because that was something that was ancestral to the cabin. And when they go into the cabin, it's like rotting, and there's like just a rotted corpse in there of whatever they came to expect, right? And supposedly they leave a little like kind of red herrings throughout the film of like, hey, there's fucking, you know, we built our house on this like rotting cabin or whatever, you know, like we use some parts from that rotting cabin in this house. So it kind of connects this like magical kind of fear, this magical monster, whatever the fuck ancestral thing that's going to come and live in the wall. At one part of the movie, they really do want you to believe that there's a creature living in the walls. And yeah, so grandma like leaves the home for a couple days, comes back, and she's like, "Oh, I was just, I was told to come back, or some crazy thing, or they wouldn't let me in, or I didn't want to let this thing in." And it's really well done, I think, in terms of kind of like, okay, is this like actually like horror in the fantastical, or is this truly psychological horror? Like, is the horror that she actually has dementia, and that's the part that's really rough? And yeah, that's what it comes down to. So now I'm going to get into like the reveal at the end of the film, because the film does a perfect job. It's perfectly adequate in kind of riding that line between, is it dementia? Is it like a fucking monster in the woods? Is it ancestral forest beings? Is it the neighbor kid with Down syndrome who she like beat up? Is like, what's going on, right? And then when we get to the end of the film and it turns into like, I can't believe what the budget for this film was, because they really do have like a lot of like, they saved all the money for the end, which is great. So at the end, mom and daughter are like going through like fucking like Escher painting hallways, and they're like beating their way through the fucking walls with like monkey wrenches and shit. And there's a great line that mom says to daughter where she says, "That's not grandma anymore." And I think if you're like kind of a dullard, you're watching the film and you're like, "Oh no, mom's possessed by the forest spirit." But the reality is that no, that's mom accepting that her mom isn't there anymore. Like, I've seen this personally, because I used to work at a gero psych unit, like a psychiatric unit for people who are over the age of 65. And sometimes people don't come to terms with it, like what dementia does to people. And some people do. But ultimately, dementia robs you of who you were and turns you into just like an impulse machine. You're just following impulses because you no longer have that prefrontal cortex thinking to kind of like check yourself. This is why, a lot of old people with dementia are they're basically like children in that they're very inappropriate. They will touch your genitalia. They'll try to pull you in the bathroom and force you to have sex with them, or they will just play with themselves in front of other people. They'll just do all sorts of crazy things like that because they have nothing telling them not to, unfortunately. So as the film winds up, mom goes back upstairs and finds grandma, and she lays next to her in bed and starts peeling grandma's skin off. And grandma is basically just a black husk being. And then this is where the intergenerational part kind of has its little send off. The daughter comes in and lays next to mom too. The daughter sees this scene, and it's totally like a what the fuck scene as the viewer. And the daughter notices there's like a little bit of decay on mom and starts picking at it too. So ultimately, I think what the film's trying to say is that decay, decline, it's a thing that we have to accept in other people. And the acceptance in the film is both mom saying that's not grandma anymore, but it's also mom laying in bed with grandma and like accepting that this is who she is, just laying there with her, accepting that essentially she is a husk, she is dead. Because not accepting would be running away. Not accepting would be going out the door with daughter. Because I think she like tricks her at the end to like push the daughter out so that she can go and like have a final battle with mom. But that's not obviously what happens, but that's kind of like what it seems like. So that seems to be the case. And then the daughter notices that there's decays in her mom. And there's interesting parts in the film of the daughter also not accepting grandma's like dementia and not accepting what was causing grandma to have moments where she seemed like she was okay. And this is what I thought the film did a really good job of, because there's a scene where grandma seems really good. Like she seems like she's like, oh, look, she's fine. She's okay. Everything's fine, And then that's when there's some music playing, and it's specifically music related to a song or to a dance that grandma did. Right. So it's this like highly connected synaptic thing in grandma's brain. And that's very much the case when it comes to people with dementia, is you can take away a lot of things because like the priming goes away, but music is very easy to get back. Like music brings back some memories. So like, it just comes right back to her and she starts dancing. But then the music stops in the movie, and then grandma's like, having a whole thing afterwards, right? So it's like it looks like this, like it's this on and off thing, right? And from your perspective, if you don't know dementia, or if you're watching the movie and you think it's like a just like a fantastical horror movie, you think, oh, grandma's struggling to fight her demons, but no, it's just grandma has dementia and she's really struggling. So I thought the movie was pretty good. I don't remember the sound design, which is unfortunate, and I think the movie takes place in Australia, which are two things that I would knock against it. Or the people are Australian, I believed. I don't know. But I would say the movie is a solid like 7.5 out of 10, and probably one of the best like riding the line movies between fantastical and realistic in terms of the execution of what the actual story ends up being. And I have to make this comment that grandma has been living in this home for a year since she flooded it, which was clearly one of the first big signs that grandma had dementia. And the house has been molding and rotting, and mom hasn't done a single fucking thing about it. And now, sure, I don't know what the rules are for like older adults and like all sorts of shit. You know, you can live until you have problems or whatever in Australia. But like, if something like that happened in the state of Wisconsin, you could bet your ass we would be like, hey, it doesn't seem like you can take care of yourself. Either your family has to figure something out, or like, you know, you're probably going to get like pulled over by us, and like we're going to like figure something out. Cause like you can't live by yourself. You're going to die, you know, like what the fuck? So I don't know. I guess Australia, they just don't care about their elderly. They're just going to let them die. That part was insane. I couldn't believe that. A year. Grandma lives in piss house for a year. And what the fuck? Oh, I don't know. I guess when you're a real, I think the mom in the movie is like a realtor, and maybe that's why she's like soulless. So she's like, oh, we can just like buy away our problem, right? But then the daughter, she's more of that kind of empathetic person. She's between jobs. She's soul searching, and she's like, well, maybe I can take care of grandma. I'll move in here and I'll take care of grandma. And the movie frames this so well to kind of think like, oh, this is going to be like, she's going to come in here and there's going to be like a fucking monster or demon or whatever. And it does feel really uncomfortable. The film is framed quite well to execute that fantastical horror of there being like some fucking family ancestral spirit demon that's lingering and they're going to come out and get him or some fucking shit. I don't know. But no, it's just a nice little story about, you know, struggling to deal with dementia and then struggling to accept that, which I thought was great. So yeah, blow me.